Thanks a lot. That was great.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay, anamnesis, so that's against the loss of memory.
Yeah, it's the Platonic doctrine. You know that scene where Plato proves that the slave understood geometry without ever having been taught by asking him certain questions. It's the doctrine of recollection, that all learning is recollection, and he called that anamnesis.
That's great. That's a great title.
Yeah, well, we're word folks.
I think that's wonderful, Terence. It's great.
Well, I hope you'll read The Invisible Landscape and let me know what you think of it.
Around at local bookstores, etc.?
It's fairly hard to get. I think they're selling it out front. But
did you mention that memory is somehow connected with time?
Yes, I did. I was talking about how being able to have memories is a kind of conquest of the temporal dimension, and was a very important moment in biology when animals could be enough outside the present to say, oh, I've been here before, or I know that I can't swim, or I know that's a trap, I should avoid it. And I was talking about how memory was a part of this evolutionary conquest of dimensions, which begins, just with tactile nearness, and then light, and then motility through walking, then finally memory and anticipation of the future, and then finally, as in human society, anticipation of thousands of years of time and recovery of thousands of years of time out of the past, not just personal experience.
Well, I kind of see that my memory is not perfect. It's judgmental. And in that sense, maybe there's a saving factor, because as I live in time, if my memory was perfect, then why update it?
That's true. Yes, we live in the present in a sense because we have such bad memories. Thank you for coming.
I just quickly want to say,
oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Good. Well, I'll hope to see you again. Good.
So you talk about getting to the end of time as the next stage. Maybe we have to get to the end of power too.
Yes, well, I think this deepening of synchronicity and coincidence that I talked about will have the effect of getting us to the end of power. I think it's harder and harder to plot with power. Even in our own time, we've seen the most powerful forces in the world totally brought low. I mean, America loses the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon can't hang on to the presidency. It seems like the more powerful you are, the more in danger of being depotentiated you are. And I think this is about information, about the density of media, that power and information are at war with each other. And power must work hand in glove with ignorance. And ignorance is on the run. Yeah, well, we all are. Anybody in these societies is.
I'll just get your reaction to some ideas to a theory put out by an engineer named John Henderson. He says that we're coming to the end of the integration period and about to enter a new ice age. The evidence is that the trees are dying, the soil is becoming depleted, and so on and so on. And the function of the glacier is to bring back the minerals, which takes 90,000 years to remineralize the soil, and we'll have a big water that should be uncovered. CO2 in the atmosphere building up at this time.
Well, this thing I was saying about how things are becoming more connected through time and speeding up, the last 10 million years of Earth's history have been the most violent and violently fluctuating in all of Earth's history. The last million of those 10 million years have been the most violent, and of those...
Violent in terms of the weather?
The weather and glaciation and earthquake and pole shift and all these things. The last 100,000 years have been the most violent of that. So what we're getting is an increase in all kinds of change. And this why this is happening to the planet is not clear. In other words, during the Jurassic period and Precambrian, the Earth's climate was very stable. Earth's temperatures were very stable. Apparently, the weather was very mild. Now we have these tremendous fluctuations, glaciations, and in fact, man is largely formed because of that, because the glaciations have the effect of endlessly splitting apart and reuniting human gene pools, which is, of course, the fastest way to intensify diversity. You know, you breed gene pools apart, then you mix the populations, then you separate them again, then you mix them, and this is a major formative factor making man. So it's as though, in a way, the planet, the instability of the planet on a planetary scale has called forth an intelligent species. Well, I'm saying it's driving the pump of evolution. It's the thing which is making evolution happen faster than it has ever happened before, because change always drives evolution, you know.
I think that if the glaciation period comes soon, that the competition for space and resources will be so intense that the bombs would go off and most of us will be destroyed.
Yes, we've certainly never faced a glaciation when we had the technology. But on the other hand, if the glaciation doesn't come soon, real soon, we'll be gone. You know, well, in another 100 years, Gerard O'Neill suggests the major population center by 2050 could well be the Jovian moon system. That's where the hydrocarbons are. That's where the metals are. This is where the things we need are. And if classical patterns are followed, we will go where the natural resources are.
Do we need those things? Us higher beings? I mean, you say that we need them?
I don't think we are going to spiritualize ourselves out of existence. I think that the dualism between spirit and matter and body and soul are probably going to be transcended. What we do is we excrete ideas. We take in matter, unprocessed matter, glasses, plastics, metals, and we excrete them as ideas in a very highly organized form.
What do we need concentrated metals? Isn't that the substance for a highly technological civilization? Is that what we want?
Well, it may be a transitional phase. In other words, maybe sophisticated civilizations always build with molecules. But even we are machines in the sense that we are made of DNA. Obviously, the metallic petroleum phase of a culture is very brief. As soon as we understand the genetic machinery, we will use that as our technology. Everything can be made with DNA, not just people. You can make telephones and soft drink containers, and everything can be made this way.
I really hear kind of ambivalent technology, which I don't share. I mean, I think it's something we have to resist and ignore and all this stuff. But I hear a part of me going for this, this place where the new center is going to be out there with the metal and stuff. And I don't want to go there.
Well, it wasn't you. Someone at the last one asked this very question. Said, there are two directions to turn the earth into a garden, to recognize that we are the stewards of the ecosystem of the planet, to try to rein in our Promethean, Faustian tendencies, or what I'm saying, which is space colonies and this Apollonian, non-Earth-oriented culture, which I kind of lean toward because I think that the other possibility was foreclosed sometime in the 18th century, that to achieve now that no-growth, ecological, earth as garden civilization would require unbelievable savagery being unleashed because there are too many of us. Now the only way out is up.
I think that's true.
Well, this is a question for...
appropriate technology and with the right kind of garden, we can support it.
You think that we can deliver... See, what we have to do is either deliver an American standard of living to everyone on the planet, or convince them that they don't want that
by doing it ourselves.
But I don't see that happening. I agree with you, it could happen. Yeah, the space colony is wonderful because it really splits. Everybody has to come and say, because here we're talking about building a machine larger by 1,000 times than any machine ever built, and saying, is this the answer to man's problems, or is this a deeper plunge into the nightmare? I feel everything that you're saying, but I also think that it's too... In a sense, it's too intellectual, because what you're saying is we understand what should be done, and let's do it. But what if we exist to stockpile plutonium and to build this staggering technology, to build these space colonies, because to lift the Terran gene swarm off the surface of the planet because the planet is in danger? What about the fact that the last 1,000,000 years has been the most turbulent of the last 100 million, and the last 100,000 the most turbulent of that? Perhaps the planet is destabilizing. In that case, what is happening is it isn't that man is evolving into spaceman and leaving the planet. It's that man is the cutting edge of biology on the planet, and biology is frantic to escape because it senses that the ecosystem... But there will be if we take everything and go. And also, that's a question. In other words, it's a commonplace of the gee whiz school of thought that we're made of stars, alien stars. The atoms in your body were once in the heart of alien stars. Well, if that's true, and everyone agrees it is, but the statement which should follow on that means that there are atoms in your body which were once the atoms of alien planets, not stars. So I think that the galaxy is no barrier at all to biology. Our biology is a barrier to understanding how biology really works.
One last thing. Co-evolution quantum was very much into space colonies at that point. George Wald led a subsequent issue, which I really like. He said, the space colonies are going to be such highly organized places in terms of our present culture and politics. They're going to be totally authoritarian systems because they have to be. Everything has to be totally controlled and in its place for those kind of very fragile environments to survive. On Earth, you can have a very relaxed, liberal atmosphere. On the space colonies, it's going to be a prison.
Maybe. Because, you see, the Earth is a prison, and we are threatened by toxicity and plutonium and all these wonderful things. Plato, on the other hand, thought that the minimum governable size of a human population was 50,000 people. Now, which is more likely to give rise to a totalitarian nightmare? A society of 700 or 1 billion people with short resources on Earth with hostile neighbors, or a swarm of space colonies, several hundred of them, each with a population no more than 50,000 and spread through a volume the size of the solar system. See, I think we stand on the brink of the greatest age of pluralism since the Greek city-state, and that it's not true, this whole thing about control. It's here is where there must be staggering control because there are hydrogen weapons stacked like cordwood. We must have thought control, not of populations, of leaders. They agree on both sides. This is the place where there is no pressure. We have no idea how dangerous to ourselves the threat of extinction is, whether it occurs or not. just the weight we are carrying around, knowing that we could become extinct. If there were 100 space colonies spread through the solar system, man would be a galactic species. There would nothing short of the explosion of the star could threaten all genes aboard the space colony, and everybody will go. We are simply the guy who gets to push the go button. But the animals, the plants, the bacteria, the fungi, everything will probably fall in lots of 40s and 50s.
The people who build these highly technological things are the most scientific, authoritarian people on the planet.
Oh, it'll be built for the wrong reason, but it will be built. Columbus wanted to get rich.